Okay, so I want to talk about boredom today and how everyone's obsessed with avoiding being bored and spending time with themselves. And really, what is that causing in society and what are we missing out on? And so I want to start by reading from this book, Dopamine Nation. And it's a really good book. You know, there's not a lot of good books about dopamine. So I've been reading it because I'm really trying to master and understand dopamine. I would highly recommend that you understand dopamine. It's one of the most important systems of your body. Anyway, so the lady that wrote this book, she is a psychologist, and she's helping one of her patients, this patient named Sophie, and she's a Stanford undergraduate from South Korea, and she is seeking help for depression and anxiety. And among other things they've talked about, she told me she spends most of her time walking plugged into some kind of device. She's Instagramming, YouTubing, listening to podcasts and playlists. So this lady, the psychiatrist, she suggests that she try walking to class without listening to anything or just letting her own thoughts bubble to the surface. The girl looks at her, incredulous and afraid. Why would I do that? She asked. The psychologist replies, I ventured, and it's a way of becoming familiar with yourself, of letting your experience unfold without trying to control it or run away from it. All that distracting yourself with devices may be contributing to your depression and anxiety. It's pretty exhausting avoiding yourself all the time. I wonder if experiencing yourself in a different way might give you access to new thoughts and feelings and help you feel more connected to yourself, to others, and the world. So this is a really interesting concept because this girl is experiencing, anxiety, depression, all these problems, and she's constantly running away from them. And so the psychologist is suggesting, hey, unplug from the distractions and, consider listening to your own thoughts. And ultimately, it's going to bring you closer to yourself, to other people, and the world. And that's really the goal about life. That is life right there. It's connecting with yourself, with others, and enjoying and participating in the world. So, wow, that's amazing. So then the lady goes on to say, boredom, it's not just boring, it can also be terrifying. It forces us to come face to face with the bigger questions of meaning and purpose. But boredom is also an opportunity for discovery and invention. It creates the space necessary for a new thought to form, without which we're endlessly reacting to stimuli around us, rather than allowing ourselves to be within our lived experience. This is huge. And one thing you have to understand is that society does not want you to think. The system and all of the technocrats that are running society, they want you plugged in to the matrix 100%. So when you look around and just look at people when you're out in the public, everyone is plugged in constantly. There they have earbuds, headphones, they're stuck on their phone. And this is by design, because when people start to think, they start to question. And when people begin questioning, like, why is this way? Why is this happening? And they start asking the simple question of why. That is when people become dangerous. Because when people use the skill, so there's a skill that we all have that is really important to practice, and it's the skill of reasoning. And reasoning it's a thought process. And the way I understand and use reasoning is I am presented with an idea, a problem, something, and I take it in and I think about it, and I kind of bounce or correlate that idea off of my own experiences. So I can reason out certain problems and find solutions based upon what I know and what makes sense to me. And there's actually a larger thought process that I like to do, and it involves logic, reason, and critical thinking. And I'm going to make some videos about that. I'm actually working on a course specifically teaching that thought method, because we're all, raised in this linear thought system. We're raised in Western society, so we need to be able to capitalize on that and really be able to utilize the linear thought method of logic, reason, and critical thinking to really understand things. So, for me, I have made the decision I've unplugged. So I've stopped listening to music to pass the time. I used to do that a lot when I was working, because I'd work out in the woods. I'd be logging or running heavy equipment, and I'd be out there all day long from like 8 or 9 a.m. till 3 to 4 in the afternoon. And I used to listen to music constantly, the whole time. I had YouTube playlists. I bought their music. I got premium, so I got the music streaming, and you can do it with no service. So I had like music going that entire time. And I definitely had thoughts and ideas and insights while the music was playing. But when I'd made the decision to stop listening to the music, man, at first, it was challenging. And I'd have to say that you're going to have to power through just the thoughts that come into your mind and just being alone with yourself. Because if you're not used to that, that can definitely be challenging. But when I powered through and just kept it, just no music, and I was just fully present in what I was doing, a very interesting thing started to happen. So I've been studying dopamine, and that's what this book is all about. Dopamine. There's this concept, and it's called flow state. And there's another great book, and I'll link these books in the description. It's called Flow, and it's by another psychologist who has a big fancy name, which I can't pronounce. Anyway, flow state is when you are just fully enmeshed in whatever you're doing, and time disappears. Like you no longer have a concept of time. And in my opinion, flow state is a form of time travel. It's like you can be so involved and focused in something that reality fades away, time no longer exists, and you are just solely involved in what you're doing. And flow state is very common for people all the time. Like athletes experience it. Imagine like a race car driver who's heavily focused on driving the race car and not dying. They're fully in flow state, and the concept of time really doesn't exist. So what I have been able to do, and what I have discovered, is that when I'm working in a machine, I'm in the machine, and it's loud, and I have ear protection, but it's uncomfortable. It's bumpy because I'm running equipment in the woods. It's not uneven ground, so it's hard to do. It's not pleasurable. And there's this concept of, when you start learning about dopamine, there's a concept within dopamine. It's called the pleasure-pain balance. And whenever you lean into painful activities, you go into something painful, your body, your mind, your brain releases dopamine. And what ends up happening is, what I found was, I'm in these painful working conditions. I'm not distracted at all. My body begins releasing dopamine, and I enter a flow state. And while I'm in that flow state, time is not really existing. I'm still cognizant of what I'm doing, but it's kind of muscle memory, so I'm not having to fully focus on it. And I can then let my thoughts drift. And that's when I have these like amazing ideas. And that's how I came up with making this YouTube channel. But I've had other ideas, like I invented a process of forestry that has never been done, that I only do. And I've been teaching it to people where I live, and I've been using it to really make my business stand out and be able to make more money and just be better at what I do. I recently had this idea, and I'm working on this project currently. I haven't mentioned it to you, but I want to create these forest therapy environments where people can come into the forest and walk. And I met this guy in the park randomly, and he makes giant chimes out of these pipes, like wind chimes, but they're huge. They're just on a massive scale. Anyway, he was telling me about these, and he's the only one in the world that knows how to tune these pipes so that they interact with one another in like a harmonized scale. So anyway, it's cool. I met him. We were talking about it, but I had the idea. So I'm like working in the woods. I'm in flow state. I'm thinking, and I've been studying a lot about sound therapy. If you don't know about sound therapy, it's using certain frequencies to interact with the human body to have certain healing effects. Like they can have mental effects, physical effects, spiritual effects, all kinds of stuff. And once you start understanding sound therapy, you begin to realize how everything is a vibration. Everything is a frequency, and frequencies are very powerful. So I had the idea was, this guy knows how to tune these giant pipes and these chimes. And it's actually similar to, see that pipe back there? Right there? That's funny, that thing is in the background, I'm talking about this. So what I want to do is, and I'm already doing this with this guy, we're taking giant pipes like this, and we're tuning them to a specific frequency. And if you look this up, look up like the solfeggio frequencies, you can tune these to a certain hertz, and that hertz has a certain interaction within the body. And so what we're doing is my idea is to set up environments just like this so people can go outdoors and be in nature, and then we have these pipes that are tuned to a specific frequency, and then people can strike those pipes. And what's interesting is these things vibrate, man, like they are strong. You strike the pipe and it vibrates. That vibration goes into your body and fills your body with this frequency. And then you can either stand by it for a long period of time and have the healing frequency hit your body. Like these things are powerful. They like chatter your teeth, man. They're really strong. Anyway, or you can then begin to walk through the forest and have that frequency reverberating in your body. And so I had this whole vision while I'm working in my skid steer in the forest, not plugged into music. And that's what I'm saying, like, you know, and like this lady in the book, you know, suggesting to her patient is like, unplug, because she has all these mental problems, unplug and just have your own thoughts and be with yourself. And the power that can generate is huge, man, because you don't know what thought or idea or invention that you could have. Like, I thought up that this sound healing experience. Nothing like that exists in the world. And a funny like addition to that story, and I've always given the advice on this channel is like, be open to meeting people. Like just how I was open to meeting that guy in the park who tunes those pipes. I'm here in New York, you know, visiting my wife's family, and just in the little town we're in, there's like a little cafe, and I had the baby, and this lady and this little kid are sitting outside, and the little kid's like, I want to see the baby, and so I was like, oh hey, here's the baby, and they were nice, and the lady and I started chatting, and she's like, what are you up to? What do you do, or whatever? I said, oh, I'm in forestry, and I said, oh, what do you do? And she said, oh, I'm an architect from New York. She's worked in the city. She had a big career in architecture, and she's a landscape architect. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And we chatted it up, and she gave me her number, and she was like, hey, here's my number. You know, if you guys are ever back in New York, hit me up. So this was last year. So I show up, and it's like we've been here for a few days, and I was thinking like, oh, it'd be cool to reach out to that lady to tell her about my forest therapy, my forest bathing, forest therapy, sound healing idea. And so I texted her, and I was like, oh, hey, I'm in the area. Are you around? I had this. I want to start building these forest bathing sound therapy parks, and you know, I wasn't sure if I was going to hear from her or not. Anyway, boom, she hits me like immediately, and she's like, oh my God, like that's so funny that you even mentioned that, because I'm actually submitting a bid for like a 900-acre retreat out in Western New York. And she's like, I was thinking that it'd be really cool to have some kind of forest therapy specifically for that retreat. And she's like, that's so funny. I was literally just thinking about that. And then you texted me. And I was like, oh, well, that's crazy. And then she's like, well, like, what are you, she's like, oh, let me see some examples of your work. And what are you, you know, like, do you have a business, or what do you do? And I was like, actually, I have this YouTube channel, Thriving in the Modern Age. And I'm going to start sharing and talking about it on my YouTube channel. And she's like, oh, well, send me a link to your channel. So I sent her a link to the channel. She hits me back, and she's like, oh, well, I see your channel is all about narcissistic abuse. And I was like, yeah, that's a lot of it right now. And she's like, yeah, I come from a narcissistic family environment, and I've been in therapy for it for like years. Just that alone, it was just this huge, you know, it was like the serendipitous moment that unraveled before both of us, and it was crazy. And we've been spending time together. She has a granddaughter that's the same age as my daughter. And none of that would have happened if I wasn't unplugged and from all these distractions, and without me taking the time just to unplug and think and put myself in an uncomfortable situation to then kind of just like get into this flow state, to then have this vision, and from this vision then sharing it with people. Now, like, this thing could be like, the likelihood of this happening is really high. So she has the bid on the 900-acre job in Western New York, but she also has a big project in India that's like 3,500-acre project there that's like all healing related. So the likelihood of what I envisioned becoming real is very high, because these things don't exist right now in the world. No one knows how to make these. They make small ones, like you may have seen crystal singing bowls. You can tune those to certain frequencies. Some of the copper bowls and like little bells, but nothing to that scale. And when you're around an object of that scale and it's vibrating, it's really intense. So it's like, look around and look at what everyone's up to, man. Like, no one is taking the time to just sit with themselves and get to know themselves and feel their feelings and listen to their own thoughts. And no one's taking the time to ponder anything. And, I think there's huge power in spending your time doing that. Because, I don't know, like, you could have a great idea. You could have a vision. You could have an invention that could change everything. And who knows what this sound therapy thing could do. This could really change a lot. It could really better people's lives. And it goes to show that we have these inherent qualities that are built into us, and that all we really need to do is just show up for them. You know what I mean? Like, just stop being distracted all the time and just show up for what's happening inside your body, like in your mind, in your spirit. Inside of you is this whole vast universe of knowledge and potential. And I think it's valuable to start investing your time into that, because you'll get huge insight about yourself. You'll start understanding your emotions and what you're feeling a lot more. And if you start practicing and start getting control of your dopamine system, you can start really honing in on getting into a flow state. And when you get into flow state, that's when, in my opinion, that's when you're connected to a higher presence. And that's when, like, I have a theory about knowledge and information where, like, knowledge, like, everything has already been done, in a sense of, if you can imagine it and dream it, it can be done. Because you got to think of some of these people who have lived throughout history and the things that they've imagined and that they've created. I mean, no one else thought of that, and this person thinks of it, and then they bring it to fruition, and now it's real in the physical form. Like, that's amazing. So what else could we do? I don't know. Like, there's just so much that's possible. So, and from my experience, is the flow state can get you there. And it's all about your dopamine system. I mean, back to this book, and I'll leave a link to another book about dopamine. I'm working on a course right now, too. I'll just tell you about the courses that I want to start offering. I want to offer 4 courses, and it's these 4 courses that all add up to you becoming like a problem solver. It's giving you the skills needed to be able to take on your own problems and execute what I call the self-transformational process. Because what I realized is, all these problems that we're solving and experiences that we have and things we're trying to figure out, it's all these transformations. And throughout time in our life, we're always transforming into something new. And so ideally, we're improving and we're executing these self-transformational processes, little by little, to better ourselves. And so what I was thinking was, a great use of the of the resources and the channel and my platform. And, I was thinking, like, what can I give to people that would really be something real and tangible? And I thought, yeah, it's this course of how to become a problem solver. And so it starts with your dopamine system. That's the very first course of the series. It's understanding your dopamine system and getting control of it. Because right now your dopamine system is being used against you and you don't realize it. And a lot of companies are making a lot of money off of you, and you have a very powerful tool that you can access, and it's your dopamine system. The second course is all about improving your cognition with logic, reasoning, and critical thinking. And it's how to basically master those for yourself and then use that to be able to disseminate knowledge and information and then utilize it for yourself. Those are the first two. Oh, what are the other ones? Dang, I can't remember right now. Anyway, they all add up to becoming a problem solver and executing your own self-transformational process. So anyway, I could ramble on more about that, but I'll review what I've written so far, and I'll start sharing more about it as I get more work done. But anyway, I highly encourage you to take a break from the constant distractions and spend some time with yourself, and you don't know what will come out of it. So as always, I appreciate your time, and have a good rest of your day.